Yeah, no, just.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call of Alderman.
Alderman Hazel.
Here.
Alderman Kinsella.
Here.
Alderman Schmidt.
Here.
Alderman Bittner.
Here.
Alderman Randall.
Here.
Alderman Tyler.
Here.
Alderman Anthony.
Here.
Alderman Ovian.
Here.
Alderman Silsby.
Here.
Alderman Dintelman.
Here.
Alderman Seibert.
Here.
Alderman White.
Here.
Alderman Galletti.
Here.
Alderman Elmore.
Here.
Alderman Wigington.
Here.
Alderman Musgrove.
Here. All the aldermen are present. Roll call of department heads.
City Attorney Horner.
Here.
City Treasurer Hart.
Here.
Police Chief Clay. Fire Chief Poor. Ken Vaughn. Royce Carlisle. Jamie Matrit. Tim Gregowitz. Jim Schneider. Leander Spearman. Chuck Schaefer. Bob Sabo. Debbie Belleville. Anissa McCaskill.
Okay, Mike Parks is here for Chuck Schaefer. Eric Schauster is here for Anissa McCaskill. Lieutenant Colonel Sparker is here for Chief Clay, and Debbie Belleville is excused. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would join me and please stand, and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we have no public hearing this evening. We will start public participation in just a moment. I will ask that once we begin, you raise your hand. Once I recognize you, please step to the microphone in the middle of the room and give your name and try to keep your comments to 2 to 3 minutes max, and try to keep them based on a topic of the agenda or something that's current at hand in the city business if possible. I'd also ask you to please keep everything in good taste and of good character. That being said, I will open public participation. Yes, ma'am.
Negative, Lillian Schneider, 219 Kansas Avenue, Belleville, Illinois. Oh, and I have got my trash and sewer paid with no 6 water shutoff notices. Do the Lindenwood students not have to get occupancy permits or a background check? A, Belleville wouldn't let the Salvation Army stay open unless they did background checks. B, could this be that the people were poor and had been in trouble? C, is this the way the city picks and chooses who gets to live in the city? This is one sure case of discrimination and harassment. D, students could have been in trouble also, and just look at the drinking problem with all the trash. Now who is bad? Why are they better than the homeless? Is it who they know and who they are? If a family wants to live in a small house with 5 or more kids, we have the right to tell them how big their house has to be. Everyone that has been fined or ticketed should band together and file suit. Discrimination against the poor. Oh, don't worry, the paper won't print this, even though they are going to be more open, but it is in the video, and wait till Thursday evening. If the Salvation Army doesn't speak up, then they don't need to cry for the homeless. This shows only certain people have to obey the laws. Ignorance is no excuse for disobeying the law. If it was me or a landlord with too many in a single family home, we would be fined and have to leave until the hearing. Some kind of suit should be filed. Got another one. And this is on the police. When I was an alderman, I was on police and fire. November 10th, 2014 minutes. Alderman Schneider requested to make plans for the purchase of a second AED on next year's budget. Okay, my question is, has that been applied for to get another AED machine? And are the ones for the police cars in them and working and are serviced? Or are they sitting in a closet like they were when the man died at Southside Park? And anybody with the Lindenwood stuff, if you can, file suit, because it's discrimination and harassment. If it was me or any of you people, we would be out on the street
Okay,
until the hearing. Yes.
okay, thank you. Thank you. Next, yes, ma'am.
My name is Alicia Bradley. I reside on South 27th Street. Recently on the news, a Lindenwood University representative stated in an interview, after purchase price, they spend another $10,000 to $30,000 to bring the properties they purchase up to code. Well, we, the homeowners of South 27th Street, and plenty of homeowners in the community, have also invested our hard-earned money into our homes after purchase price. Some of us have invested close to or more than $10,000 to $30,000. Plus, we as city residents have to be within code regulations prior to our occupancy. As homeowners and Belleville citizens, after our purchase, we continue to pay property taxes held up to the city ordinance or risk penalties and fees. We as homeowners are not entitled to any TIF incentives to help with the maintenance of our homes. So it is not only insulting and disheartening as a productive citizens or citizens who have invested time, work, and volunteered to be active in our community and raise our children and attempt to instill the same values in our grandchildren. It makes you feel vulnerable and wonder, is growth and development more important than the working family-oriented community we chose to call home? It seems the comprehensive plan for Belleville is catered more toward business growth development than family. I am not sure how connected our community will remain if practices or special use permits are granted based off the premise of growth and finances only. Thank you.
Thank you. Front row.
Michael Hagberg. Speaking about the Concrete Trust deal that's on here, nothing against them. This is more in general about the business agreements that the city does. First, I want to comment that I don't think I've missed any economic development meetings, and it's stated that this is coming from that committee. I don't believe that it's actually was at that committee. It's come straight to council. The original agreement said that the work had to be completed by February 28th of 2014. Why is it a year and a half later that we're doing an amended agreement to make it so that they have until December 31st of this year to complete the work? It only goes to show that these agreements are not being checked up on. And if a year and a half goes by and then they have to come and go, oh yeah, we're not in compliance, well, they weren't in compliance a year and a half ago. And I think there should be better scrutiny and better checking on these business agreements to see that when the taxpayers hand out money, that there's, you know, we'll do this, you do that. It's just a fair agreement, and that's what the contract's supposed to be about. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name's Kirk Weber. I'm from South 27th Street. I want to thank the mayor, all the elected officials, appointed officials for the opportunity. Some of our issues, I did send some emails to the aldermen. There was a typo in there with an amount that I put an extra zero in place, so just wanted to point that out. It's just brought to my attention. To bring up some of the issues that we have on the zoning purposes, come straight from the Belleville Chapter 60 zoning codes to read some. The chapter regulates structures and land uses in order to preserve, protect, and promote the public health, safety, and welfare through the implementation of this municipality's comprehensive plan. A lot of different things on that in the first paragraph. If you read those, it brings it up and points out a lot of issues we have. One of the main issues we have is safety, parking concerns, and overcrowding. Some of the special use permits, instead of lumping them all into one thing, which I believe there was 39 on the special use permit for the zoning board, in the codes on Article 6 of that, or 11 of that, I'm sorry, says such special uses require careful case-by-case review and may be allowed only by permission of the council. So on South 27th Street, our area is zoned differently than the West A Street, the West Main Street, and I think everything does take special consideration. Our issue, one of our key issues is safety. We have basically a narrow 2-lane road. One side of that is fire lane. If there's parking on the other side, because on the narrow lots, there is single-car driveways. We've got a grade school on there. We've got students walking from grade school and traffic from that, and then also the Lindenwood students. So appreciate any concern. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, sir?
My name is Noah Bremer. I live on West A Street. Elected officials, you're all going to hear plenty of complaints tonight from some of my neighbors, people that are living in the same situation I am. So I won't do any more of that right now. But what I will ask you is that there's the zoning board hearing that you're all aware of on Thursday. After that, you guys are going to be voting on the special variance for all of these properties that Lindenwood has put up. I would just ask you to consider it if it was your community. Vote on it not as if it's some place that you don't live in, some place that just a school is requesting the ability to house as many students as they can fit per this variance. Vote on it as though you live there. Vote on it as though you're raising your children there. Vote on it as though you're trying to go to sleep at 12:30 at night whenever there's a car parked across the street and the bass thumping. Vote on it for all of those reasons. Don't vote on it just because someone has asked. Actually reach out to your constituents if you don't believe me, and find out how they would feel if you describe the situations that have been brought to you. Go to them. See how they would have you vote. Don't just take it for granted that silence means nothing. Seek out an opinion, please. Thank you.
Thanks. Yes, ma'am.
Diane Rogie, I also live on A Street. I just want to point out to the council, the single largest investment of most people is their home. It's part of the American dream. When I was considering my home on West A Street, I viewed that house 4 times with the realtor and once with the developer. I made 10 additional trips to that neighborhood at different times of the day and night to research what was going on and anything that might not be to my satisfaction. I wanted a neighborhood where I felt safe, where my grandkids could play in the yard, and the evenings and Sunday mornings could be spent in peace, a single-family residential neighborhood. That is all being threatened now. The special use permit being requested by Lindenwood and being voted on by this council on October 5th will destroy the fabric of our neighborhoods by allowing 3 to 16 unrelated adult students in homes designed to hold small families. Currently in the 2000 block of West A, we have 33 students since August 15th. When they completely fill the rest of the homes, there will be 52 students in 1 block. This is only 1 block. The safety issues are overwhelming. Let's not wait for a tragedy in one of these homes to suddenly open our eyes. Lindenwood St. Charles it was founded in 1827. They are a thriving and growing college. They do not allow this. Their St. Charles administrator shared with us the ordinance that LU over there is required to follow. It allows them to put only 3 adults in the home. They're inspected yearly. This has not caused any problems for them. They're still growing and thriving. Lindenwood, Belleville will also grow and thrive, and they will not go under, and they will not pick up their toys and go home. Unfortunately, the majority of the homeowners selling out to Lindenwood are leaving Belleville. They did not go across town and buy another home. On the 7 homes sold on our block only, 2 of those went to assisted living. The 2000 West A went to Shiloh, 2011 went to Collinsville, 2021 went to O'Fallon, Illinois, 2023 went to Florida, and 2025 went to Mascoutah. These people were so unhappy that they couldn't wait to get out of town. If we do not get a handle on this fight for the tax-paying citizen, we will be left with nothing more than temporary college students and renters who can't afford anything else. The tax-paying citizens deserve better. The residents of these neighborhoods deserve better. The Lindenwood students deserve better. The city of Belleville deserves better. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name's Dale Wentz. I also live on South 27th, and I'm not a public speaker, so please bear with me. I purchased my home 25 years ago in an older neighborhood, similar to the neighborhood I grew up in, Belleville. Over the years, our neighborhood's not been without problems, but with the help of the city officials, the local schools, and our neighbors, we've always been able to work through these issues. What we are asking for today is your help in resolving our current concerns and issues. Many of the details of the issues we are experiencing have been voiced by my fellow neighbors. To sum them up, we are concerned about our property values, loss of privacy, quietness, safety, increased traffic, and congestion. We, the neighbors of Lindenwood, are here to ask for fair and equal treatment. Our actions have shown that we are willing to work with the city and the university to resolve the issues at hand. We feel that our current special use permit, as written, is not good for the neighborhood or for the current tax-paying citizens. It benefits Lindenwood at the cost of the neighborhood residents, their properties, and their way of life. As written, the current special use permit does not even meet the requirements of the current city zoning code. From the general provisions, section 60-1-1, which states, and I quote, "To encourage the development of building and uses on appropriate sites in order to maximize community-wide social and economic benefits while accommodating the particular needs of all residents, to protect and enhance the character and stability of sound existing residential, commercial, and industrial areas, to conserve and increase the value of taxable property throughout this municipality, to provide adequate and well-designed parking and loading spaces for all buildings and uses, and to reduce vehicular congestion on public streets and highways. And last, to provide for the efficient administration and fair enforcement of all the regulations." The request currently does not meet or address any of these objectives, especially from the side of the residents. What we're asking for is a much clearer definition of what is to be allowed in our neighborhoods. We expect Lindenwood to be held to similar standards that us, the tax-paying homeowners, are held to. Specifically, we are asking that they be held to 3 unrelated adults per homes, similar to the city's current single-family housing zoning. Currently, the proposed zoning variance has all the properties grouped together in one large group. It is presented as an all-or-nothing proposition. We feel the city should expand the current zoning code to allow for clearer definition of what is allowed based on how these current areas are zoned. The way it is currently written, once a special use is given, Lindenwood would become exempt from many regulations that the city has already put in place. A building in a single-family residence zone should not be treated the same as a building in a light industrial zone. In closing, we are not asking that Lindenwood not be allowed to use these homes for student housing. We are asked that they are held to a similar standard that we are. We are asking the city to preserve our neighborhoods and the investments that we put into them. We are asking you to vote no on the current request for special use as it is currently be written and revisit it to something more acceptable to the community. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Kelly Wentz, and I also live on South 27th. It's the same street as Union Elementary School. And I, too, am here to discuss Lindenwood's request for the special use permit, which would allow approximately 35 properties that they've purchased to be considered as the student dwelling label. And that's defined as 1, 2, or multifamily dwelling where they can place more than 3 but less than 16 unrelated students together. I see 2 issues. First, these 35 properties are not equal and should not be lumped into the same request. They range from single-family homes to duplexes to apartment complexes, and each of them would have their own issues, advantages, attributes, and capabilities, and therefore should be considered on a case-by-case individual basis. Second, allowing the Lindenwood the ability to add up to 15 students per residence, in particular the single-family houses, would not add to our investment in quality of life here in Belleville. We want to keep our neighborhoods just that, a neighborhood. Lindenwood has purchased several houses on my street alone. 4 of those directly neighbor me, and so far they only have 3 students each in 2 houses. So we're only dealing with 6 students at this time, and we've already seen dramatic changes. We've seen more litter along the streets and in our yards. Noise pollution has skyrocketed. We have loud music at all hours, car doors slamming and honking horns, and loud animated conversations held at night. We have a lot more traffic up and down our streets at all hours, with several of those not obeying the speed limits, even within the school zone. Parking has become a huge issue and will only get worse Many of these single-family houses only have single-car driveways. The house right next to ours, they turned the entire front yard into a gravel parking lot. The remaining have to park in the street, and my street only allows parking on one side. So basically, it's a one-lane road now. This makes for crowding and congestion. And lastly, safety is an issue. With increased traffic and crowded parking paired with young children and pedestrians, it's an accident waiting to happen. But I also worry about the safety of the Lindenwood residents in single-family homes. Do they have emergency exits? Could emergency vehicles even make it down on crowded streets? Like I said, we only have 6 people in our section of the street right now. What happens when the other 2 houses are ready? What happens when there's 6 people in each house, or 8? That would be 32 people and possibly cars in our section of the street alone. Think of the noise, traffic, and parking problems that. This street is a family neighborhood and cannot be treated as a dormitory. It simply does not have the capability or capacity to absorb an impact of this magnitude. Lindenwood is here to stay, and I welcome the positive changes. However, this request has serious negative impacts to our home life and our investment. The situation needs careful and deliberate consideration for all involved to find a solution that will take the long-term residents' needs into account as well. Therefore, I am asking you to please vote no to the special use permit as it is currently written. This is our neighborhood. These are our homes. Let's keep it that way, and let's keep it to no more than 3 unrelated adults in a single-family home. Please, vote no.
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Chris Swearingen. I live also on South 27th Street, down by Lindenwood, or down by Union School. Loretta and I have lived there for 16 years and have enjoyed our home and neighbors. We are very concerned with the changes taking place at this time. I travel quite a bit with my job, and until recently, Loretta has not had concerns about her safety while I am out of town until now. There has been a growing amount of traffic and people on our block, as well as parties. We are afraid that if the new zoning comes to pass, it will only grow worse. This has been mostly an area of families and couples since we have lived here, and many years prior. We are planning our retirement in this area and wish to keep it that way. I am sure there are others who feel the same. Can we please try to keep some of this prevalent as this decision is made? We only wish to keep this area a safe, clean, and respectable community for all. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Maria Brown. I am from 318 Brittany Lane. I am here in reference to a request that was made to use the band shelter in Bellevue Park with my church upon this Rock Kingdom Ministry. We, a small church, I know when I went to the Parks and Rec department, they were a little concerned about how much traffic it might bring in, but what we wanted to do was just be able to bring something positive to the neighborhood and just be able to, and free, positive and free, we're going to give out hot dogs and sodas and that kind of thing, have kids craft tables, maybe like some clothes giveaways for winter clothes and that kind of thing. But the brand shelter is for a Christian concert, and it'll just be local bands. Nobody who will bring in the whole area, but just local singers and choirs and that kind of thing from other churches who we would partner with. So I just wanted to make sure that it was clear what it was for and what the request was, and if you had any questions to be able to ask.
And we appreciate you coming forward explaining. It really helps.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I want to finish on this side, and I'll come over to you, Rose. Yes, sir. You're next.
Stuart Lannert, South 29th Street. You know, Lindenwood had all along, from the very beginning, they moved to this town, but they was gonna jam as many students as possible into these houses. So they just done whatever they felt like it and give Belleville a fait accompli, either lump it or leave it. They just jammed them in there. Now it's up to Belleville to kick them out. They totally disrespected the Belleville mayor and the aldermen and the taxpayers of Belleville by not getting permission first. And these college students are far from perfect if you read it, to keep up with the news. So they're not a little all bunch of angels, believe me. And Lindenwood claims they've done over $1 billion with a B in the Belleville in the last few years. That's their figures, which I don't believe. Now, the Lindenwooders claim that they don't have to pay taxes on these 30 or 40 houses, so that's gonna hurt us because we're gonna have to pay more property tax. And what is Lindenwood Corporation? There's a piece of property on Lindenwood. On the first map I got from the courthouse said property of Belleville, and then the next map I get says one half of the property is Lindenwood University, but then the other half is listed as Lindenwood Corporation. Now, I would like to know what the difference between the Lindenwood Corporation and Lindenwood University is. It's on the map. I got the map at home. I got it from the courthouse. And I'm wondering, why do we have to pay Lindenwood $150,000 a year? We could have, look at how many police cars and police officers we could have for $150,000 a year since 2003. That'd be one police officer and one car probably every year since 2003. And I think Bruce Cook would probably like to see that park for his daughter finished sometime before he passes away, the Meredith home. And as Nancy Pelosi said, I doubt if even one alderman can understand all these tax breaks and TIFs like Nancy Pelosi on Obamacare. We have to pass it so we can figure it out. I got a feeling not one alderman or even you people up there really know the ins and outs of all these TIFs and all this complicated tax breaks. Thank you.
Gene?
Good evening. My name is Gene Bierman. I'm a Belleville resident. I grew up in the 1900 block of West A. My daughter currently resides in the 2000 block. Two things. I wanted to read a note from my daughter, Cassie. But I also wanted to ask the city council members, before you vote next month, please take just a little bit of time and personally visit this neighborhood, 27th, 29th Street, West A Street. Don't just drive down West Main. See what they've done in the front. Study what's been done so far with these properties. Get out of your car or walk down the alley. See what happens to the backyards of the neighborhood. They're not like a neighborhood anymore. They just kind of strip them out, pack as many cars in as they can, put big lights on, shine lights on the rest of the neighbors. It's, as some of the other people have said, they're just kind of tearing apart the fabric of the neighborhood. It's just not the same. Cassie asked me to read, with the October 5th meeting fast approaching, I would like to send a note about the proposed Lindenwood zoning around its campus. Though I was not present at the last council meeting, I did write a letter read by City Council Bittner and later viewed the meeting online. It was stated in the meeting that there were a larger number than normal Belleville citizens in attendance who expressed their concerns regarding Lindenwood and the surrounding neighborhoods. This speaks volumes. Citizens are taking part in their democratic right to implore the city council to not make a zoning decision just merely because Lindenwood is bigger, has more money, and ultimately has more power of persuasion. They came as concerned citizens who live in Belleville day in and day out. In order to fully understand our stance of why rezoning at this juncture is not a good idea, you must put yourself in the shoes of myself and my neighbors. First, I'd like to mention that prior to Lindenwood's recent acquisition in my block, there were neighbors in every residence, of the homes purchased by Lindenwood, none of those residents stayed in Belleville, 0. If other neighborhoods that absorbed Lindenwood follow suit, there soon will be very few actual residents, taxpayers, voters left in Belleville. Second is the day-to-day component. It is impossible for anyone to imagine what it's like living on campus when you're an adult. The raucous behavior of college students was not something my daughter enjoyed as a student. She does not enjoy it in the neighborhood. My neighbors and I have worked very hard to get what we have and do not believe that all at once the university should be given carte blanche to our neighborhood. As a community, we just celebrated 200 years. It's a real shame to think that if Lindenwood continues to get what it wants, many of the neighborhoods just won't be here for future centennials. Lastly, I'd like to say that myself and my generations are the future of Belleville. We have elected to live here, even though we could have easily picked any other city or county in which to reside. As a Belleville City Council, it is your role to support your community and its posterity. This is not about aligning with a party. It is about a city government supporting and standing behind its citizens. Thank you.
Both of you or one of you?
My name's Jamie Aaron. I live on West A. I was asked to speak this evening as a prior Lindenwood student myself over in the St. Charles branch. I was one of the first ones to move into the campus houses over there when they started annexing some of the neighborhoods. We were told point blank by our housing director that we were not allowed to do a lot of the things that these students are allowed to get away with now. We only had 3 people in our house. We had to park, now, yes, they had parking on both sides of the street, but we had to park in front of our own house or in our own driveway. We were not allowed to disturb our neighbors. We were not allowed to trash up the neighborhood. We were not allowed to have parties. If we got caught with the opposite sex in our household that was not priorly approved and a family relative, we were recommended to be kicked out of campus completely, not just put back on campus. I can't believe that now, as an adult, I'm living on Lindenwood property again, more or less, and seeing that these students get away with what they're allowed to get away with. We are not allowed to put bottles in the yards. We weren't allowed to have loud music. After 10 o'clock, we had to have everything quiet. We were told that if we disturbed our neighbors and they got a negative report, we were going back to the dorms. If there was another negative report, we were kicked out of school. And so I don't understand why over in St. Charles, these rules had to be applied. They also followed the recommendations of the city and minimizing how many people were allowed in these houses to cut down on the traffic and the noise pollution and everything else. But here in Belleville, they're allowed to do what they want. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. You're next, Rose.
Chris Balster, 2205 West A. Also, I agree with everything my neighbors listed, and they put it eloquently, better than I could. The one thing I didn't hear addressed is why the Lindenwood students get to walk through our yards and act like they already own it. These young men are belligerent, training for football, half my age, and when I feel threatened, I may tase one till he pees his pants. If Lindenwood isn't going to teach discipline and morality, then we don't need to give them any more variances. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Rose Wilson. Last council meeting, what caught my attention was the issue about crime-free housing in regards to Lindenwood. It was mentioned that Lindenwood is exempt from that. As a person that stood here and fought very hard for the crime-free variance to get on the books, I don't like that ruling in many ways. Having students in housing doesn't equate necessarily to a crime-free area. And I think we're given a mixed message to the landlords that have to abide by that, but Lindenwood doesn't. I just can't go for that. We fought too hard for that. I think there should be some kind of ruling that makes this college do. I like the college, I like the university in town, but I think somewhere along the line we have to abide by the rules in regards to crime-free. Thank you.
Okay. All righty. If there's no other comments tonight, I'm going to close public, yes, ma'am. Yes, if you want to speak, now's the time.
Hi, I'm Jean Friedrich, and I am sponsoring a concert at Belleville Fairgrounds on January 2nd. Also, what I also want to do is have a fireworks show after the concert. And I do have a pyro operator that has license, and I know, I have to have the appropriate insurance. And I know I have to have 200 feet, in the surrounding distance, clear of everything. And I know it'll be a good time of the year, being on January 2nd, for bringing in 2016. And it'll be a nice additional, to the city of Belleville to bring fireworks back. And I also have many other communities that's already asked me to do fireworks in their, towns. I'm already booked many already. So yeah, I'm just asking, if I can do it on January 2nd. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'd like to know why do I gotta pay taxes on Linwood College students, taxes in Linwood? And I'd like to know how come they ain't got none occupancy permits.
And would you please give your name, sir?
What's that?
Would you please give your name?
Leonard Argus. See.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with all those comments, I'm gonna close public participation. And just let me say, this in closing. There's, I know I received a lot of emails this week. I was gone from Wednesday to Sunday at some meetings for the city. And I've been reading them today, catching up. I will continue some communication with many of you and with Lindenwood. The zoning board hearing is in this room on Thursday, as was mentioned, at 7 p.m. Certainly encourage participation from you. And like I said, I think there's a lot of assumptions, and we'll get into it. The zoning board's the next process before it comes back here. And we'll just leave it at that for now, but there's a lot of things being reviewed and a lot of things being looked at, because we said from the very beginning that there was going to be growing pains and there was going to be things that we needed to adjust or that we needed to consider, and that certainly is the case. And this is the first time since they've gone to day school that we've had this kind of input from the residents. Prior to this, we've never had an outcry like this from a number of the residents. It hadn't happened. So we are listening, and we will continue to work with you to try to figure out solutions. And the next step will be on Thursday night at the zoning board hearing, okay? But if I didn't get back with somebody today, if you sent an email, it's only because I was out of town for several days with the municipal league meetings. And we will continue to share them with staff. We're researching some things as we speak, and we will continue to have some considerations as we look at some of these various questions that have been raised. Okay? We move now to the regular portion of the meeting. I don't have any presentation or appointments tonight. I would ask for approval of the minutes of the City Council meeting from September 8, 2015. Motion by Alderman Schmidt. Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Hazel to accept and file the minutes from September 8th. Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have the claims, payroll, and disbursements. They're listed here, broken out as was requested a while back, that we have the disbursements, and then you also have the payroll of the period ending September 18th. Do I have a motion to pay these two items and to move forward? Motion by Alderman Schmidt, second by Alderman Hazel. Any questions about the claims or disbursements or payroll?
One question.
Yes, sir.
For the city treasurer, the payment to Glenview, Illinois, that came out of, I think, legal, was it?
Okay. It's actually a question for the finance department. They pay the claims.
Okay. But I was wondering if you might be able to provide an update of where we are with respect to the tolling agreement and the IMAT situation.
As that's still pending litigation, that would have to be an executive session
Thank you,
discussion.
appreciate that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to accept and file the treasurer's, and to go ahead and pay the claims and disbursements and the payroll. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Hazel.
Aye.
Kinsella. Schmidt.
Aye.
Bittner.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Tyler.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Ovian.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Dintelman.
Aye.
Seibert.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Galletti.
Aye.
Elmore.
Aye.
Wigington.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Motion carries. At this time, I'd ask for a motion to accept and file the treasurer's report, statement of cash and investments dated August 2015. Motion by Alderman Bittner, second by Alderman Schmidt. Any discussion? All in favor of this motion to accept and file signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Oral reports. Eric, do you want to go ahead and explain this real quick? There was a question raised, and might as well go straight to the answer.
Yes, we had a previous agreement with Concrete Trust for the remodeling of the building. Part of that included facade improvements. They did receive a portion of their facade improvement. One of the issues that they had was that some wood that was put on, I believe it's the back of the building, had to be seasoned. It basically just needed to sit and season before it could be painted and have some other things done to it. So a few weeks ago, Mr. Concrete called and, explained the situation. So all we're doing is extending the date of completion for that project. There's no change in incentives. There's still money available through the grant that they were approved for. So that's why it did not go back to committee, because there was no change in the incentive or the core of what was, in the agreement, simply a date change. Now, we have had agreements that were amended that were, like the agreement for Mr. Ardinger, had been previously approved, and then there was a change in scope. Then it went back through committee, but a simple date change we didn't feel was necessary to convene the entire committee just for that one particular thing.
Yes, sir.
I move we approve an amended development agreement with John D. Concrete Trust and Concrete Incorporated for the remodeling of the existing facility located at 116 and 120 East Main Street.
Motion by Alderman Consilla, second by Alderman Seibert. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
Why did it take, Eric, why did it take a year and a half?
Right, to figure
To season the wood, or?
That's my question. Explain to me. I was explaining.
Well, and it wasn't, if you go back, Eric, and I don't have the dates in front of me, but Tim, it took quite a while before he got all that done. There was a lot of unexpected slowdowns with that project. We had a wall that cracked. We had to have a structural engineer come in. We had a number of things. That project, in fairness to him, it was stretched out a lot longer than any of us anticipated.
What was the original date?
I don't have that in front of me, but it's been about a year maybe.
I didn't hear that question.
What was the original date for completion?
I don't have that in front of me either. I don't know.
And what would happen if it wasn't completed by that date, according to the agreement?
Then they wouldn't get the reimbursement for the facade improvements. Everything else, everything but I believe it's some painting and some other things that they need to do to this area where this wood is. Everything else is completed.
What's the amount?
There's approximately $1,100 left that's available. I don't know if that'll all be required.
I'm saying what is the amount of the reimbursement that he would miss out on if this date is not changed?
1,100 is the max that is available that's remaining.
But has he already?
He's not done the work yet.
Okay.
The additional work, yeah, that's correct.
Excuse me, Alderman Galletti, is the question you're trying to get to here is that there was a date per the agreement to where all the work needed to be completed in order to qualify for those sums, or they had to be returned to the city?
Yeah, that's why he wants us to do this.
I guess my question is, why has it taken so, was no one watching this, or why did it take so long?
He called me a few weeks ago and explained the situation with this issue with the wood having to season. I assumed everything was done because they had requested their reimbursement from the agreement. They've been submitting their compliance paperwork annually. And
But we're still, we're a year and a half after, what, the original date was what, March? I mean, we don't know.
It was like May of 2014, but wasn't it last summer when they had, it was the back of the Smalls building that we're talking about, right? That
Yeah,
they
I
had
mean,
problems
the
with
dates are running together, but that project got stretched out a lot longer than it was supposed to.
I mean, the dates running together, but I mean, that's the whole purpose of this, is the date. So, are what you're telling me is that the completion date was supposed to be last year in the summer? And also, is this the building where we bought and we tore down the back part that used to be like a yoga place? So the structural engineering thing that you were talking about, did that make this portion of the agreement take longer? And was that something that we did?
You know about it.
no, this is the section next to the east. The building to the east, I believe it's 120.
This is the back of the other buildings. The
Sorry.
back of the old Sears building and the back of the building that was the thrift store that he bought, right?
Right.
Right.
So was it supposed to be completed last summer? Is that what we're talking about here? Or
Once
was it
again,
earlier
I'd
this
have to
thing?
go
The
get
dollar amount in the agreement was met or surpassed by the time of the completion date, completion date of the original agreement. So they spent the amount they said they were going to spend. And that's what the wording of the agreement is, that they would spend this amount by this time. So they still have some more work to do to complete things that were, and I just learned about this a couple of weeks ago.
So if we don't know when it was supposed to be completed, I mean, how can we push off a date that we don't, has it even come yet?
Yes, the original date is passed. And he couldn't get everything completed by that date because of this issue with the seasoning of the wood.
Okay, then have we been told why he didn't ask at that time? Why didn't we do this then? Why is this coming to us now?
I don't know, and I asked Eric if he was coming tonight, and Eric said he didn't indicate he was, so there's no explanation. We just heard about it a couple weeks ago. I mean, you have the right to your vote here. I mean, we're just presenting what was given to us and just telling you that.
Yes, but Mayor, Mr. Mayor, the agreement was with the city, so somewhere we should have this agreement that has a date on it.
We do.
If I can go upstairs and get it and read it to you if you'd like. I mean, if that's the
Well,
holdup, I mean, I
okay,
can go
let's
get the
just tell you
agreement.
what, let's just, okay, hold it.
Have that.
I'll tell you what. Eric, why don't you go ahead and do that? I'm just gonna hold this. We're gonna go to the next item. As the chair, I'm gonna make a decision to hold 11A-1 until a few more minutes, and we'll go now to the next item on the agenda, 11B, to streets and grades, Mr. Seibert.
Yes, Your Honor, I have 4 motions. If there's no objections, I'd read them as a group and have them voted on as one.
Is there any problem with that?
No problem.
Proceed.
Motion to approve the right-of-way alley vacation at Foley Drive and Frank Scott Parkway. Motion to approve Kaskasky Engineering for scope of work modification in the amount of $98,500 for the Freeburg Avenue roundabout. Motion to approve Volker to perform land acquisition services in the amount of $6,000 for South 29th Street. A motion to approve Kuhlman Design Group for surveying services for North Illinois streetscape. So moved, Your Honor.
Motion by Alderman Seibert, do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Randall. Do I hear discussion? Roll call.
Hazel.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Bittner.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Tyler.
Aye.
Anthony. Ovian.
Aye.
Silsby. Dentelman. Seibert.
Aye.
White. Galletti.
Aye.
Elmore. Wiggington. Musgrove.
Aye.
Motion carries. Master Sewer, Alderman Dillman.
Thank you, Mayor. On behalf of the Master Sewer Committee, I'd like to make a motion
to approve the bid recommendation for a 1-ton utility body, 4-wheel drive truck and plow to Tri-Ford in the amount of $42,903.
Motion by, second by, who is the second? Second by Anthony. Discussion on this motion? Roll call.
Hazel.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Bittner.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Tyler.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Ovian.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Dentelman.
Aye.
Seibert.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Galletti.
Aye.
Elmore.
Aye.
Wiggington.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Motion carries. Traffic Committee. Mr. White, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Your Honor. Again, I have 4 motions as well. I'd like to read them all and vote on at the same time if there are no objections.
Proceed.
First motion, motion to create a stop at West Lincoln and South 8th Street. Second, motion to delete the handicap parking in front of 109 North Broad Meadow. Third one is motion to delete the handicap parking in front of 2719 Broad Meadow. And the fourth one is motion to create a handicap parking in front of 512 North First Street for original requester only. So moved, and also to have the proper ordinances drawn.
Motion by Alderman White, second by Alderman Schmidt.
Excuse me, Your Honor. Could Alderman White repeat the street name, please?
Which street?
I think it's Brook Meadow.
Brook Meadow, sorry.
Both of them Brook Meadow, right?
Right, both are
Okay.
Brook Meadows.
Okay, we have motions coming from traffic, 4 motions coming from traffic, and we have a second. Do I have any discussion? All in favor of these 4 motions and have the proper ordinances drawn signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll go to communications while we're still waiting for Eric to return.
12A, grand opening Turner Hall, Friday, October 16, 2015. On October 16, 2015, we will be having the grand opening for the co-working space at 15 North First Street in Turner Hall. We anticipate having members of the St. Louis region entrepreneurial and co-working ecosystem, estimating around 300 to 400 people. This event will include barbecue, craft local beer, and a band. The time is between 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., and they would like to request the city's assistance on the following. Close the first street with barricades from A Street to Main, provide 10 picnic tables, provide electric for the beer tap station, barbecue, and entertainment, provide a stage area of approximately 15 by 140 feet, provide brochures for handouts promoting Belleville with event dates and housing opportunities. This is an opportunity to showcase the downtown to people outside our community that would enjoy the urban experience we have to offer.
Okay, can I interrupt just a second? The only question I have, and I see our friend is here, I don't know of the stage that we have. If I can, that was the only question I had before we go and approve something that we can't deliver on.
No, it's about 12 by 15.
Do we have one?
Do you guys have this? I don't know.
I don't think it's ours. I think we always borrow it from, we either borrow it from one of the schools or something else. I would suggest you might talk with Patty Gregory or also, maybe somebody in Parks might know something, but to my knowledge, that's the one item I caught this afternoon when I was going over the agenda that we don't have.
Okay.
All right, so if you just take that out of the equation here, and we'll try to work with you, but like I said, that one I don't think we have, Kurt. Okay? Why don't we go ahead and vote on that one, and then we can go maybe lump the rest of them together.
I'd like to have 12D separate, too.
Well, let's just go on, and we'll have do I hear a motion to approve 12A?
So moved, Your Honor.
Motion by Alderman Randall, second by Alderman Schmidt. Any discussion on that, other than verifying that we don't have a stage, to my knowledge? And if we can help you, we'll help you, but I don't know that we have one. With that said, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So we're going on.
12B, Santa Parade, Friday, November 27, 2015. Communication from Optimist Club of Belleville requesting Santa on the Square and permission for the annual Santa Parade on Friday, November 27, 2015 at 10 a.m. 17th and West Main Street to proceed east on Main Street to Forest Avenue.
And
12C, Miller Bench.
I'd like to include something in that. I just thought about this a while ago when I glanced at it. I'd like to include, and maybe it's just city attorney might agree, that we include in that request from the Optimist Club that we give them permission for that period of dates up to the 23rd of, or 24th of December, that they have their Santa Claus trailer on the square, and that that we're approving that we're operating it, because they're on our property for that length of time, and I think that ought to be included in the permission, other than just the parade. Okay, would someone want to make that a motion including that? Motion by Alderman Elmore. Second by Alderman Wiggington, that we're not only approving the parade request, but giving them permission to, once again, and I'll tell them next year to word that in their request. That should be in there, just from a liability standpoint, that we're giving our approval. So everybody understand that?
Yeah.
So all in favor of the motion for 12B signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Go ahead, maybe we'll
Your
get.
Honor, Your Honor,
Yes.
was D and E presented to the park board yet?
They're both at a function tonight that I gave them approval to go to. Well, the D would not have to go to the park board because that's private property at the Belleclaire Fairgrounds.
E would.
And I'm positive it has been. I'm positive it has been. Yeah, the young lady, I think she had to leave, but the young lady even stated that she went to them, and Debbie just thought because of the possible size of the event, that it'd be best to take it to council. Because at the time, the lady didn't know, I think, just how big it might get. And I think her explanation tonight answered certainly a lot of my questions. So I think in answer to your questions, it did go to the Parks Department. Okay, so we're back to 12C.
Okay, 12C Miller Bench. Communication from David Miller requesting the addition of a granite bench to be located in the northwest quadrant of the square next to similar benches, requesting to work with the Parks Department and purchase the bench for $2,300.
Okay, if I can give an explanation here. We've got several memorial benches on there. Jason and I have made sure it's on city property. It's actually a perfect spot for it, right up next to the other benches. This is a memorial to the family member. The Millers have the insurance over the years down here at Chickadons, 3rd and Main. They've been in Belleville many years. And this is very similar to what we've done with those other benches that are up there by several other Belleville families who've had a memorial bench. So just so that maybe that helps answer the question a little bit. Would we hear a motion to approve? Alderman Consilla, would you make that motion?
I move we approve the addition of.
And second by Alderman Schmidt. Any discussion now on that? Yes, sir.
The $2,300 is paid by the family?
Paid by the family. This is to cover all the costs to install it, et cetera. Okay? And Jason Poole has been working with them because he's been involved, the Parks Department, with those other installations. Okay? So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of this signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
12D Concert and Fireworks Show at the Belleclaire Fairgrounds, Saturday, January 2nd, 2016. Communications requesting a concert at the Belleclaire Fairgrounds on January 2nd, 2016, and a 15-minute fireworks show.
I'll make a motion with the addition of full approval and obvious inspection from our fire department.
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to ask. It had to be Tom? Yes. We have a second, first of all, while we're, second by Alderman Tyler, motion was by Alderman Elmore. And now, before we get into council discussion, I'll ask the fire chief for his comments.
One thing that we did notice in looking at the state law, last year, we agreed that we were gonna follow the state law. It says to issue a permit for a fireworks display, we have to have an ordinance allowing that, so that may be something we have to do first to follow the state law.
Did we do that when did we do that? Well, it wasn't in our venue when we did the ones at the 200. It was in Swick's venue.
So that may be something we have to pass first.
Okay, so
before you
then,
can actually allow that.
passing this motion would be contingent upon going to the ordinance committee, and Garrett to look at that. Approve the appropriate ordinance, okay?
I'll amend my motion to table this item.
Well, do we want to go ahead and approve the item and understanding that if everybody's for it, we just get it to ordinance and get the amendment into the ordinance amended?
As long as the ordinance approves it.
As long as, okay, we ought to have the ordinance first, so then that, so you agree to table it till the,
Yes.
okay, and this.
Excuse me, Mayor, one other question. I would like to know at what time the fireworks display would take place. When the concert's over, what time of night?
As soon as the fire, what time of that? About 9:15.
Thank you.
Okay, so, yes, sir.
I had a question also. Is the concert in, I'm surmising, in the building or out on the parking lot?
It's inside the building.
And is this, is it a New Year's celebration, or exactly why are they doing this?
Yes, yeah. And Belleclaire's trying to do some things to sustain their ability to stay alive. And they're looking for venues of activities and concerts and things. So let's go ahead, and if we understand, if it, Alderman Elmore, your vote to table it, send it immediately to ordinance. Mr. Musgrove, you'll get that on the agenda, and then you agree to table. So
Mayor,
Sounds-
how long would it take to get the ordinance passed? I mean, the process?
Well, if it gets to the next ordinance meeting, you could have it approved by that next meeting in October.
Or the second meeting.
Second meeting in October.
Second meeting in
This
October?
meeting is the second Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that gonna give
What
enough?
limits of liability insurance are carried? Because this is not something that we generally see.
Yes, ma'am.
I have an insurance carrier.
Can you provide that for us by the time we go to ordinance 2?
I usually get it like maybe 2 weeks before my event.
But can you give us the amount that you always get carried, the amount of the?
I can give you all the information, I'm just not gonna purchase it until then.
I understand, but we need to know what your intentions are and how much you're asking your carrier to cover you for. I think we need that information for the ordinance meeting. Okay, we have, yes, sir.
Can I go and ask what kind of concert are we talking about here?
Country music.
Thank you.
We have a motion and we have a second to table this item and send it to ordinance, so it's appropriately followed, based on what's in our code, with some of the changes over the years with the fireworks with the state, et cetera. All in favor of the motion to table signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
12E, upon this Rock Kingdom Ministries, this is a request for the use of the band, shelter, and closet pavilion in Bellevue Park on the first available Saturday in October from 12 noon until 4 p.m. Upon this Rock Kingdom Ministries at 50 Villa Drive, a registered non-for-profit organization would like to sponsor a Christian concert at the stage area. We plan to have both live singing and pre-recorded music over the media. With a congregation of only 20, we only expect a crowd of 50 non-neighborhood residents at any given time. We will, however, have free hot dogs, soda, and water available for all who attend. Residents of the neighborhood and all patrons of the park will be invited.
Motion by Alderman Schmidt. Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Anthony. Do I hear any discussions? Yes.
Yeah. So, did they make any mention for a request of, this is going to be, expect a crowd of 50 non-neighborhood residents plus the neighborhood residents? I don't see where they requested any additional tables or, but depending on how many more that they may have. And so I see no request here for tables, so no. And then police for parking, they didn't make that request either.
Well, traditionally, we've had events at the band shelter for years like this, where I felt, personally, I think I feel much more comfortable tonight with this lady coming forward, hearing it's from church groups, and the staff will continue to work with her. We've had some questions of a few events when people say they want to have a concert in the park. With social media today, that can get pretty outlandish, and the police chief and I are concerned. But I think at this point, we will review it with staff, but I think at this point, upon your approval, I think I get the personal opinion here tonight, listening to her, that we can probably manage this and be okay with it. But
Mayor.
we'll certainly, this is a changing thing with social media today and all these different things. Some of these events can get very large very quickly.
A couple things, they said a first available Saturday, we're almost into October. Don't we need to pinpoint what Saturday that's going to
No,
be? And free music and food could draw a lot more than 50 people. What about bathroom facilities? What if, in fact, we end up with 300 people, 400 people, not 50 people? There's no guarantee there's only gonna be 50 people there. So I think we need to pin down a Saturday, and I think we have to be proactive about, this could be a lot larger crowd than we could expect.
Okay, once again, yes, sir.
Well, that was the purpose of my request, since it was going to be that soon in October, we wouldn't have time to come back if we needed to make a provision in case there was a need for additional
Well, one thing about it, it's probably gonna be relatively early in October because the weather changes pretty quickly.
And we're almost to October.
You get to the end of October and the outside events are not going to be so.
So when can we expect a date from them?
I didn't realize she left until I looked up a minute ago.
Yeah.
I would say it's either gonna be, if she's looking at Saturday, I'm saying it's probably gonna be the first or second week of October is what, providing there's. Yeah, yeah, it's gonna have to be the first 2 weeks of October. And Debbie happens to be, she was excused tonight, so I do know Debbie talked to her, so I think the first part of October, the band shelter was clear. Okay?
Do we need to have a provision in the motion that if the need would arise, do we need to already have
Yeah, I mean, I think that the approval tonight from you all will be with final approval by staff for the date and for the final questions raised here in regards to some of the questions raised about the total numbers and, you know, I think if you give the permission, we can add to that motion that it's staff's discretion to make sure that they meet all the necessary criteria for safety.
Mayor, I'm just being proactive because, you know, that's a park that's easily accessible by walking. And there could be a lot of people in that very immediate area that could walk over there, that could swell that crowd considerably.
No, I won't sit here and disagree with you on anything today. I'll just tell you that our experience has been with the groups that have rented various parks with church functions, we haven't had, those have not been the groups that I think Lieutenant Colonel Sparger would agree. Those have not been the groups traditionally that have given us the concern of large numbers. The church groups have not. When I heard tonight it's number of churches, I had a slight sigh of relief. It's sometimes when you get other music groups and people from we don't know coming from where, it's sometimes when the numbers really accelerate on us. So we can ask to approve it contingent upon going back to the Parks Department for finalizing the availability of the shelter for sometime during the first 2 weeks and to double check a few of these questions. If they don't feel satisfied, we cannot issue the permit.
And one more point, I totally trust the department heads to carry out their duties, but we had a situation years ago where we had a circus going on the same weekend as Art on the Square. We felt we were concerned about stretching manpower. We've got chili cook-off on the 3rd and a couple of events downtown on the 10th. Just making a note of it. We do have other events going on.
I would suggest right off the bat, probably, in my opinion, thinking about it here, that the first weekend is probably not the best.
Right.
You know, I haven't looked at the calendar for a second, but I will talk to Debbie. Okay, with all those things under consideration, I would just ask that you consider to give the staff permission to further work these details out, and if everything falls into the proper, with the police department's review and the parks department, that they would give them permission to have the event. If we can't reach those determinations, then they will have the discretion to hold back. We have a motion and we have a second with those comments being included. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
12F, St. Teresa Catholic School STEM Lab Cosmic Glow Walk, Saturday, October 17, 2015. Communication from St. Teresa Catholic School requesting to hold their Cosmic Glow Walk.
Now, this really probably wouldn't need any permission because in talking to the follow-up, it's going to be on the sidewalks. We're going to remind them that they should have some bright colored clothes on at night and the glow for sure, but you know, some bright reflective clothing. And we're going to remind them to follow all intersections and traffic, rules. But we really couldn't stop a group of people from walking down the sidewalk anyway. They're just being courtesy. They wanted to know if they needed it. And at first, we weren't sure if they were talking about closing off the streets because I told them that would be very expensive police-wise. And they said, oh, no, we can't afford that. So it's basically just to give approval the fact that they're going to be out walking in an organized fashion.
I move we approve this request.
Motion by Alderman Kinsella, second by Alderman Schmidt. Do I have any further discussion on this? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have no petitions, we have no resolutions this evening, and we have no ordinances. That may be a first. Is there any unfinished business? Eric, come back to the table. Or microphone.
Okay, the original completion date was February of 2014. I got an email September 4th. And I'll just read part of it. It says the painter told us that the windows and doors in the rear of the building that we boarded up needed to be seasoned so the wood could dry before it could be painted.
So 6 months later, he gave us that?
Of this year, yes.
A year later, okay.
Since February 14.
Right. The original completion date was February of 2014.
And what this extension gives him is the right to the sales tax exemption for the supplies.
Sales tax exemption and then
The
any
facade.
remaining facade that's available. Now, they did submit their certificate of certification of compliance with the agreement. They weren't in compliance at the time of the anniversary of the agreement. So, and they did, when they get a facade, when someone gets a facade grant, they submit us all the documentation that they actually made the improvements and paid the amount that they paid, and they get 20% of that with a max of $5,000 per facade. So there's there's 1,100, if they spent enough to get the full amount that they were approved for, there'd be $1,100 left that's available. Now,
But he'd have to spend how many times more than that to get that? Yeah. But, yeah.
yeah. And they did send me the bid, and I apologize, I didn't print that off too. But I don't recall that it was that much that it was going to go all the way.
Alderman Glady.
I just wanted to thank Eric for getting that and to tell the council I wasn't trying to be difficult, but I thought if we were going to
there were good
extend the
questions,
date,
and
we should know what date it was.
Eric and I just raised a question to Eric this evening in the hallway, because honestly, I hadn't, and I asked him if somebody from Concrete was gonna be here, and he said he didn't know. So they weren't here, so it did catch us a little bit off, and as he just explained, it just came in relatively recently, so, I thought that whole project was behind me. I was surprised to see it really on the agenda. And normally I'm a lot more on top of the agenda, but we did the agenda this week when I was, we approved the final thing when I was in Chicago. And, so it was kind of I didn't actually focus on it.
Your Honor, if there aren't any other questions, could we call for the vote?
If nobody has any other questions, no other questions to be, thank you, Eric. Okay, so I'd ask, I'd ask for a motion.
We do have a motion.
We have a
to
motion.
approve.
Who was the motion originally?
Kinsella and Seibert.
Kinsella and Seibert made the motion to approve his request to amend the development agreement. Any further discussion now that you guys reconfirm your motions, right? Okay. Roll call.
Hazel.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Bittner.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Tyler.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Ovian.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Dentelman.
Aye.
Seibert. White. Galletti. Elmore. Wigington.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Is there any miscellaneous or new business? We do have a motor fuel claim.
Motion to pay the motor fuel claim of $184,525.76.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Elmore, second by Alderman Wigington. Boy, Paul, you're getting a little slow. Sorry. We have a motion and a second to pay the motor fuel claims. If there's no questions, roll call.
Hazel.
Aye.
Kinsella. Schmidt.
Aye.
Bittner.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Tyler.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Ovian.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Dentelman.
Aye.
Seibert. White. Galletti.
Aye.
Elmore. Wigington.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
That motion carries. He doesn't have a lot of the information. He was gonna do a memo to everybody or else bring it to the next meeting to get all the answers you're looking for. Is that good?
That's fine.
If that's okay, I don't have anything else tonight that's ready to go for executive session. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Schmidt, second by Alderman Galletti. All in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.